Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. Foster and Alan, how are you?
We're very good. How are you, sir?
Do you know, I'm really good. Not as good as you two, though. I mean, what a life and career. Anybody can have a hit, but lasting 50 years is quite something.
I suppose it is. It's there's nobody more surprised than us. We started playing together first 51 years ago in a little local band, and then in 75 we started Foster and Alan in a pub in London and in Kilburn Park, and now 43 years later you're still stuck with us.
What is it? Is it the voice? Is it the songs? Is it the chemistry between you two? Because it's a remarkable synergy that everything seems perfect and the public love it.
I think it's a little bit of everything, and probably an attitude. We both have what I'd call a healthy attitude towards the whole thing, In 51 years we've never had an argument or a row. So I think that says a lot about what we're doing. And we both like the kind of music we do on record and on stage, and that outside that we would have a lot of different interests in music, but we both like what we play. As I said to someone earlier on, when we did the week in London in the pub, we had been in a show band in Ireland prior to that, doing sort of pop songs, a bit of rock and roll, a bit of country. And then we did nothing only, a bit of Irish and ballads and lively music for a whole week with the accordion and keyboards. And to me that was a whole new lease of life, because here was something we both enjoyed, the public were enjoying it.
I think you're both inspirations in 2018, that you stick to what you know and what you do. You've never gone for being popular, for being a pop act. You've just always been there, and it's fared you well, hasn't it?
Yeah, we're advising young people to do the very same. That if you were playing one type of music, but the bit to your right is the popular thing, people are trying to go from A to B, but by the time they get to B, it's gone to C. Whereas if you stay at A, the wheel will turn, yes, and eventually it'll be there for you. And that kind of is what happened with us. That I suppose, without wanting to sound big-headed, we didn't really have any competition in our niche of the market. There was nobody there before us, and 43 years later there's no one coming behind us.
Talk to me about being a sex symbol, because you're both a nice bit of trouser. No, come on. The ladies find you delicious, don't they? Let's face it.
We'd better go to Specsavers.
A very good ad for Specsavers, I think, yeah. We'll probably do the next ad for Specsavers.
Your following is incredibly loyal, though, isn't it? And they've been there forever, and they will go wherever you go. And then we look around the world. To have global success is another thing that's so hard to achieve. And I think with you, it happened organically. Your words spread just by the music. Yeah,
well, you see, there's a certain age group of people everywhere in the world who like a certain type of music. Like, if you looked at what we do, well, right through the 60s and into the 70s, you had people like Val Doonican and the Bachelors and the Seekers and, Max Bygraves and people like that who were doing that type of music and recording it. But if you think back, there was always that kind of music in the British charts, always. Somewhere in the top 5, top 10, top 20. But a lot of those acts would make an album every couple of years, maybe, of 8 or 9 songs. So we came along and we started doing like 50 or 60 songs on a CD, and we do it every year, and it goes into the charts every year. So, but I think in the 80s, people bought a lot more music in the UK and all over the world than they did before, because you had people like Woolworths who you could go into a shop and you had a huge selection to pick from, So we hooked onto that and got the best we could of it.
I think for me, it's the poetry of what you do that's so compelling. I mean, something like Working Man, you deliver it so beautifully. It's all about the words, isn't it, as much as the music?
Yeah, sure. Look, we try and do whatever song we're doing, we like to have a story to it. And it makes it so much easier to remember the words, because one thing leads into another, and it's like telling a story, with singing it or playing it, but it's still a story rather than, some of the other stuff. But our audience, I think, loves songs that have a story, whether it's a funny story or a sad story or an in-between story. That's really what they like, and it's what we like. And I suppose if we didn't like it, we wouldn't be able to do it.
I've been trying to work out how many songs you must have in your head, because if you've had 27 million albums sold over nearly 50 years, times 50 songs, we're talking a lot of songs, aren't we? Have you ever worked out how many you know?
I think we've recorded between 800 or 900 songs. And I think this, I know they said with 30 albums, but I'd say it's nearer to 70 albums. Wow. If you look at best of and like our record company would bring out like a best of Foster and Allen after 3 or 4 years, but half the album would be songs was out before. There could be half the album could be new songs as well, you know. So we've been very lucky to have good record company as well as a good PR people and stuff like that all the years, you know.
Are you constantly listening for new songs? Because you need a classic, don't you? You need something that your audience is going to resonate with.
Tony would be constantly listening to new stuff and music, but I'm very, very tunnel visioned. I would be really Irish dance music, Scottish dance music. That would be all I'd listen to. Maybe a certain amount of what we would call an Ireland ballad groups or stuff like that, but it's Tony that, you know, I would stick, he's the main singer. I would stick to funny songs, stuff that I can get away with, you know, that they're listening to the words and the fun in them rather than my voice. So I get away with murder that way, and then I play the accordion, so, you know, I'm safe enough that way. But Tony is always on the hunt for something new and something good.
Yeah, there was a time when, you know, you'd be driving around the country and you'd pull up at a motor cafe and there'd be a stand with a case of all, you know, buy one get 4 free CDs to everything, you know, and you'd always buy a lot because there'd be always good songs there somewhere. And now, of course, the internet has it all, you know, because you can go back to songs that was recorded 50, 60, 100 years ago, and it's great for picking up music, but it's dangerous if you sit down at night and end up at 6 o'clock in the morning sitting looking at the internet, you know. But it's and it's good, you know. I like doing that. I would do that a lot.
Mick, tell me about your friendship and your life on the road, because I'm gathering that you probably spend more time in cars, planes and on buses than you do actually on stage. That's the reality of show business, isn't it? You've got to get on or it's going to be painful.
Yeah, if you don't, it's a major problem. Probably not as much now because we tour about 4 months a year. So, you know, and then Tony emigrated to Northern Ireland, so I don't see as much of him as I used to. But no, we even when there was just the two of us, you know, for the first 7 years, nearly 8 years of our career, there was just the two of us, you know. We drove a battered van and we put up the gear and we played and we took down the gear and went home. And, you know, our biggest problem probably back then was, you know, our love for sweet things and desserts. And at Easter, you know, that have these Easter eggs, Caffrey's Easter eggs that were called in Ireland, and we would buy a box of these marshmallow Easter eggs and we'd put them between the two of us in the van and we'd drive and eat, and you know, then one lad would sleep and the other lad would drive, and then we'd take turning about and come back. You know, we couldn't afford to go into fancy restaurants around like that, but we come back to Tony's home place and his mum would have a big apple tart made and she'd have nothing under the plate the next morning when she got up.
But look at you now, Tony. I mean, you're both like gazelles. How do you stay in shape these days?
You're doing a great job shooting this. Like most acts would have had a crate of beer between them driving around the country. We had a box of Easter eggs. But we have a unique record. We never had an argument or a row in over 50 years.
What is that then? Is it you just letting it go, or is it the fact that you just generally don't get on each other's nerves?
We genuinely don't get on each other, and we know each other very well. We know what's not worth talking about and what is worth talking about, you know, and I think that's very important. And I think also there's we most certainly wouldn't go over our way to annoy each other or anything like that, like, you know. So it's a job that has to be done. We both love what we do, so get on and enjoy it. And you know, if there isn't a problem, don't look for one. There's definitely no need for it.
No, the plan always was, you see, every pound we got, you know, in the old days, 10 shillings was his, 10 shillings was mine. So it didn't matter whether they wanted to listen to accordion music all night or listen to singing all night. At the end of the day, the money was the same. And we had nothing, we never had anything to fight or argue about, because you know, even though we're on stage together, we're two totally different. There's no way I could do what Tony does, and there's no way he can do what I can do. So, whether you like him better than me or vice versa makes no difference. At the end of the day, it's 10 shillings and 10 shillings.
I wonder as well about the beginnings of the group, because I think I missed the boat with show business slightly. I mean, when we look back 50 years at the people that were around and the people touring and the people running TV and appearing on it, I mean, so classy, the halcyon days of TV and theatre. It's not quite like that now, but I mean, you must have met some extraordinary people, Tony.
Yeah, and I mean, back in Ireland, you know, the big things in Ireland that time was to get on the Late Late Show, and if you got on the Late Late Show on a Friday night, you know, if you hadn't your CDs or your LPs in the shops Monday morning, you were in serious trouble, you know. Now it wouldn't make any difference. You know, we started first, it was all LPs, then it became, you know, cassettes, and now it's DVDs and CDs. But the people, yeah, we did, you know, and when we got on Top of the Pops, it was amazing, because we'd never been on anything like that before, you know. Even the Late Late Show or shows like that in Ireland, like meeting people like the Goombay Dance Band and the Boomtown Rats were on that night, you know, we'd never met them, even though they're from Ireland, you know. And yeah, meeting people like Sir Terry Wogan and, you know, all wonderful people who stood the test of time for as long as they.
And he really did love you and champion you as well. I wonder, when you walked on the set of Top of the Pops, whether that was a natural home for you. Did you feel that was comfortable? Did you feel you deserved your place? Because you had every right to be there. I mean, your chart success, I always say this to Daniel O'Donnell, as much as the industry might try and deny it, people like you are the backbone of the record business, because you sell more than anyone else collectively.
Yeah, well, I had never seen Top of the Pops until I was on it.
Oh, really?
No.
So it didn't mean anything?
No, absolutely nothing. I had been doing television at home since I was 15, traditional Irish music and children's traditional Irish music programs. Tony and myself started doing television as Foster and Allen in 1977, but I was only into, you know, I'd be rushing home to see the White Heather Club with Jimmy Shand, whereas Tony be rushing home to see Top of the Pops or the Monkeys. So I had no idea until I was on Top of the Pops. I'd say I never seen it before, and I'd say I never seen it since. I know it's gone now, but even after that, I'm just not a pop fan, you know, really.
Well, if you're not pop, you can't go out of fashion, can you? That's the thing, and it's what you've always been. Talk to me about some of the most memorable gigs. I know it's a silly question, but over the decades that you've been doing it, there must be some gigs or venues that have meant more than others. Are there particular favourites?
Yeah, I suppose in the early days when we started out, first we were playing in pubs and clubs, and then when the Bunch of Time went to number one in the Irish charts, and all of a sudden you had 700 and 800 people in pubs that were really only built to hold maybe 500, so they were really overpacked. That was really wonderful. But then, like coming over to Top of the Pops, and then all of a sudden you were doing a concert tour of England. You know, you were playing the Hexagon in Reading and places like that. You were playing the big venues and filling them, which was great, you know. And then I remember we got a call to go to Sydney, Nova Scotia one time, because this guy had a record shop in Sydney, and he started, some of his staff had picked up some of our albums in London, brought them home, and they started selling them in the shop. And all of a sudden they took off, and they were really selling well. And he brought us over to Sydney, Nova Scotia, to do a show in an ice rink. And there was 6,500 people at the show. And it was unheard of. And then like going to number one in Australia, New Zealand, and appearing, I suppose, in the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia.
What is it about the music you do that people love? I mean, around the world, universally, people seem to like this music. Is there some synergy between the accordion, the guitar, the voice that is very special? Because it's timeless, isn't it? You would think in 2018 no one would care. Arguably, more people care than ever.
Well, it's, I suppose, most unusual. When we did Top of the Pops, the record company thought that an accordion would look out of place on a pop programme. So they said, would I use a guitar? Now, I knew, I think, 4 chords on the guitar, so Tony had to teach them to me before we went on. And but I did it anyway, and the next act up were Dexys Midnight Runners, and they had an accordion. So, like, it threw that, it upset the apple cart slightly. But look, as I said before, our niche in the market was wide open, I always thought, and we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, filled it, and held
on to it.
Held on to it. There's nobody behind our shoulder saying, "Well, we better cop ourselves on, or these fellas will take over." There isn't anybody.
There's something as well very spiritual about your music, Tony. I don't know whether I'm overstepping the mark, but it feels important. It feels like it has more meaning than, let's say, pop music. Is that true?
Well, yeah, for my side of it anyway, I want, if I'm looking for songs, I have to record a song that I like and I know I can sing, and I can put my heart and soul into the song, and then make it be the same playing the accordion, So we are actually enjoying what we do, and we really do our best at what we're at, and if that should come across, and I think it does. And also you were saying there about people around the world, but that easy listening music, there's an audience for that everywhere, And I think one of the problems was that record companies just didn't see that. Okay, they'd maybe bring out an album of some easy listening singer, and then they'd have a pop album that was going to sell 5 times as much. So
let's bring it to 2018 as we sit here today. Is it still thrilling and exciting when the curtains open and the pin focus comes down and it's about you for the next 2 hours?
Yeah, it's there's something very special about going out to play in front of whatever amount of people, whether it's 500 or 1,000 or whatever, that are actually there to hear you, and because they like your music and they like what you're doing. Whereas in the very early days, playing in pubs, there might be 25% there to hear you, 25% there to see just what you're worth listening to. The other 50% would be there anyway.
Yes.
And
they're there for the bingo, aren't they?
Well, they were, you were fighting against Arthur Guinness at all times when we were playing the pubs in Ireland, and the more Arthur took over, the louder the people got. And when we used to do a bunch of time in the pubs long ago, before we recorded or it became a hit, you'd see lads getting up and going to the loo because they weren't into slow songs.
Right.
And then, of course, the whole thing changed when it became a hit.
And again, when we look at you and your success together, to still be at it, doing it and successful and bringing out yet another new album, you've made it, haven't you, really? Yeah,
it's great. And this new album, because over the years, every year we brought out a video to go with. If we had a 12-track CD, we'd have the 12 songs with the storybook for every song as well. So this time we have a 50-track two CDs with 50 songs, and there's 50 videos to go with the songs as well.
You do know this is ridiculous. I mean, most people bring out an album with about 8 tracks on. Their punters are happy about it. This is ridiculous. 50. This is 4 albums in one.
Yeah, our audience wouldn't be too happy with 8 tracks now. But we did a few television series at home in Ireland, and so we had a lot of footage from different songs. So we got the 50, as we thought, the most popular ones, and we went through the recordings and got the 50 songs to match them, and so now people can listen to us in the car and they can look at us in the living room.
You only retire when you stop doing what you don't want to do. This is your fun. This isn't a job.
Absolutely. Neither of us play golf or anything like that. We love going to football matches and hurling matches and maybe the races, but you can still do that and do what we do. And I think Ken was right,
Yeah. And having time off is important. I know you do have gaps of the year where you do nothing, and then you come back and you're still excited to be back.
Yeah, well, it keeps you, at our age, if you had to do the round of the year, I don't think we'd be able to do it. But, we hibernate for the summer, and then we start back the end of October. And, say this year we're starting the UK for 4 weeks. After Christmas, we do from the end of December to the end of January. March, we go to Scotland, and then for the month of May, we go back to Australia for the 20th time. And then it's hibernation time again.
Incredible. And down under, are the audiences exactly the same? Does it make any difference?
Yeah, no, the very same age group, same type of people. They like the same type of music, and, unless you heard them talking, you wouldn't realise where they were from. You can find out all the tour details and about this new album as well by going to the website, www.fosteringallen.ie. Guys, really lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, Tony. A pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.